What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more ABC, and we're returning to Beauty Stab 1983. Thank you again to Kim for introducing me to ABC, and Joseph and others for commenting along the way. And the next tune is If I Ever Thought You'd Be Lonely. Make sure I have that right. If I Ever Thought You'd Be Lonely, yes. So it feels like the first half of an if-then conditional statement, and we don't get the second half of it, at least not in the title. So yes, I wonder what the then part would be. And as an incidental grammatical note, you can in almost all cases omit the then because it is implied. So if something 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 something, you don't need the then formally. That is a point from an editor. Nevertheless, I am curious whether the back half of the statement will be affectionate or devotional. If I ever thought you'd be lonely, I would shower you with affection, or something like that, or whether it will be actually more complicated. Let's give it a listen. This is ABC. The song is If I Ever Thought You'd Be Lonely, and it's from the 1983 album Beauty Stab.
Christian name, parachuting from a burning plane, finding someone else you can blame. If I ever thought you'd be lonely, if I ever thought you'd be there, if I ever felt the alimony, my painted pony, you'd be there. Eskimo hearts, billowing throats, will put your trust up in a camel hair coat. The crowning in the castle, the drowning in the moat, ocean drive, desert afloat. If I ever thought you'd be lonely, if I ever thought you'd be there, if I ever thought the alimony, my painted pony, you'd be there. If I ever thought you'd be lonely, if I ever thought you'd be there, if I ever thought the alimony, my one and only, you'd be there. One for the lady, one for the gent, signatures in wet cement. If you ever ask what I meant, then I never know, then I never know.
Wow. First off, my favorite part about that track was the instrumental sections, both pre and post chorus, with that rich electric keyboard progression and these pulsing guitar chords. I really enjoyed that, especially the keyboard element, so that really stood out. And I enjoy the vocals, which they kind of let the lyrics take center stage, meaning the vocal, it's not big and belting, but it's not, super fast and syllabic. It's just kind of melodically telling the tale, which I'll admit I'm a bit perplexed about, but it almost seems much darker than I would have thought. And it's like, the references to, dying in a castle, dying or drowning in a moat. I think there was a reference to like Bedouin, something about a camel, but like, a lady and a gent in a church, but then they're in wet cement. And I'm trying to figure out if the final line of the chorus was like, if I ever thought you'd be lonely, like essentially that like they would die. Like, so I don't know if there's potential murder afoot, but it sounds darker than I would have thought. And maybe the idea is, again, like the person would rather see the other die than to be with them or to resolve their loneliness. I'm not sure. I heard a lot of the words, but I just don't know how it all comes together. But as I said, it felt less warm and comforting than maybe I would have thought in advance. Perhaps I'm mishearing it all and it is more in that vein, but yeah, a really interesting one. And again, I do hear, and people talked about this, it was like their deliberate choice to do something very different from the Lexicon of Love, and you could argue whether that was a smart move or not, like commercially, maybe even critically, but I'm enjoying this album so far, even if it definitely has more of a, not experimental, but like artistic, eccentric type of sound to it. So yeah, I do wonder, and thinking about this tune, whether the phrase beauty stab, which has a bit of an internal tension to it, if not overt contradiction, I do wonder if there's some relevance here with this song. In any case, I enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.